Hey everybody, Toby and Chris back with you. It's time for another Oklahoma's Own Sports Pod. It is a Saturday afternoon, and as you can probably tell, I'm coming to you live or on tape from the Lloyd Noble Center, where the Sooners have just fallen to Alabama 83-81. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some big football news on this pod that came out late in the week about Isaiah Satana, Kip Lewis, John Mateer, all solidifying their return to the Sooners next year. Chris, happy Saturday. How are you?
I'm doing well, but man, that Alabama loss is going to hurt for OU fans. That what a great game. If you just like college basketball, but that one's going to hurt.
Yeah, let's start there because it was a tremendous college basketball game. I know that when you are invested, sometimes it's hard to see that, but it was back and forth. The first, nobody cares about this, nor should I, but the first four media timeouts, the game was tied. All four timeouts, it was tied. And then just before halftime, OU goes on a big run, an 11-0 run to take a 11-point lead in the locker room, only to see Alabama go on a 12-0 run out of the locker room to retake the lead. And then the rest of the way, it was just heavyweights throwing punches in the middle of the ring at each other. What'd you think about it?
Toby, tied at 9 different times, 12 lead changes. I mean, that is excellent. I mean, I think that Porter Moser's squad looked inspired, especially, late first half. They were turning it on. They knew how big and how important this win would be. You were there. I was just watching on TV. It seemed like there was a decent atmosphere going on at the Lloyd Noble Center for the game, too.
Yep. Best crowd of the year. Wasn't sold out, but they had about 8,000, and they were into it. They were helping the team. They played much more inspired than on Wednesday. It was a much better matchup for OU than Wednesday. Florida's so big, and 3 times this year they have played massive front lines. Gonzaga, Arizona State, and Florida. All 3 times they got beat decisively. That's just not a good matchup. Alabama was a much better matchup. And on top of that, OU played better. They came out with a lot more intensity. Porter Moser really shortened the rotation on Saturday, only played 7 players. They shot the ball better, at least in the first half. They were a lot better defensively. And, the crowd was into it. Kudos to them. I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but I'm always entertained and annoyed by all of the expert coaches on their couches out there who want to fire everybody in the middle of a season. This is my 15th year, and every sport I call, every coach in those 15 years in all the sports, they've wanted fired at some point or another. And so, why change now? But, they came out and played well, and the crowd really helped them today. That was good. But that being said, the last 2 Saturdays at A&M, tight game with 6 minutes to go. And today, OU was ahead with 4 minutes to go by 6. Both of those games, when it mattered most, they got outplayed and went cold offensively. Today, leading by 6 with 4 minutes to go, Alabama outscored them 16-8 down the stretch to win it. Credit LeBaron Philon.
Oh my goodness.
He's going to be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
He hit huge shots in the final 4 minutes. But that being said, they had a chance, and with as entertaining as this game was, I really, really thought Nigel Pack was going to hit that shot to win. I was like, that's the perfect way for this game to end, is with a Nigel Pack buzzer beater, but he missed it.
Yeah. LeBaron Philon, actually, OU did a pretty decent job keeping Alabama off the 3-point line, not shooting well for most of the game. And then when it mattered, those 2 from LeBaron, and then the guy off the bench, I'm not going to try to say his name, Millett.
Houston Millett. Yeah.
Houston Millett, he hit a big one as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, Toby. We talked about it before this week, how it felt like they needed to get one of these 2, Florida, Alabama. They didn't get either one. So now what? Now what's the trajectory for this team? What do they have to do? It's still early.
It is
January.
Long ways to go. Yeah, at 13 regular season games to go, but they've put themselves behind the 8 ball here with a 1-4 start to conference play. They still only have the one quad 1 victory. So I don't think you worry about any of that kind of stuff right now. You just got to go find a win and find some momentum. I do think this week in the losses, some good things happened. Kirill Ialatantsif on Tuesday scored 17 points in the second half and became an offensive threat against Florida. And he was able to knock down a couple of more shots for them today. So they've expanded a little bit of their offensive firepower with him emerging.
He moved here from Siberia, what, 2.5 weeks ago? Like, it still
Christmas
hasn't
Eve.
been that long. Yeah.
So he's starting to figure it out and fit in, and they're starting to figure out how he can help them. That's a great development. And then today, I think for the first time, we saw them understand maybe the defensive intensity you have to play with in the SEC to win basketball games. I think they got tired late. But, for the first 30, 35 minutes of the contest, they were really aggressive defensively. And that's a good thing, too. So you didn't find victory, but hopefully with the combination of some of the things you figured out this week, maybe there are some wins right around the corner. And as you mentioned, it's a long ways to go. But they're in a tough spot now, man. 1-4 start. It's not what anybody wanted.
Yeah, I thought Darion Reid looked great against his former team. For people who don't know the update, I mean, he fell so awkwardly with the straight legs. Just cramping?
Yeah, he just cramped up. Played a bunch of minutes, and because of that shortened rotation, I think that it got to him maybe. But he went up for that alley-oop dunk. And Chris, you've dunked the basketball. You've gone up for a lot of alley-oops in your life. Yeah, you kind of do that spring with the calves, and that was it. When he landed, both of his legs locked up, and he just fell over like a tree. And they were able to get him some liquid. I don't know, maybe they got him an IV because he came back in and tried to play the last couple of minutes, was not very effective.
Yeah.
But that hurt him too. In the last 5 minutes, they really did not have Darion Reid. And then Tay Davis fouled out in the last minute or so. But it was a tremendous basketball game. We got a much different story and a much different outlook today, right now, if that Nigel Pack three-pointer goes in. The world looks like an entirely different place for this basketball team if he makes that shot. But he didn't. And so now they got 2 more road games next week, and you got to figure out a way to scratch out a win at South Carolina.
Toby, I've only cramped once in an actual game, athletic competition. Junior year of high school, coming off the edge to try to block an extra point. Both calves, same time. Get to the sideline, trainer comes over with the little packets of mustard.
Yeah.
And just says, bite down, pulls back. Now, I think we've discussed on a pod before, I drowned my hot dogs and brats in mustard, so I was fine with it. But yeah, no fun when both legs go at once. That's brutal.
You ever get cramps in the middle of the night?
Yeah, that's more common. And and then you wake up and you're like, was that a dream?
Oh, that's the worst pain in the world, man. Just like it locks. Anyway, that's enough. Any more basketball, or you want to move to football?
Let's move to football because it's big, Toby. I think it's big. Yep. I think we saw probably all 3 really expected, but John Mateer, Kip Lewis, Isaiah Satana, all 3 coming back. We've had discussions where it was, if they keep those guys with their additions from the portal, the roster's in a better place than it was, a month and a half ago. But that was a key part of it. If you can keep those 3 guys, and they did. I mean, I know people weren't thrilled with John Mateer throughout the season, and I don't know how much of it was the injuries, but he did look a lot better before the injuries and when he had some extra time to recover for the playoff game, other than that one play. I think John Mateer, with an offseason, with some perspective, with film under his belt, with an offensive coordinator that's also going into year 2, is going to be in a much better place. There is no reason Oklahoma should have been shopping for another quarterback. I know people wanted that as well. That's their guy, and I think it's a great guy to have, especially with that defense.
Yeah, I mean, OU was never thinking in that direction. Yeah. And I think it was just the announcements that came on Friday, that those guys were definitely staying was more of a sigh of relief. Yes. It would have been we had been told all along it was looking good for Satana and Lewis to come back, and there was really never any talk about Mateer But when it was secured, I think it was okay, because it would have been a major blow at that point if any of those guys had decided to go to the draft. And so, you got to give, I think, Jim Nagy and Brent Venables, and the money people too, because that's what a lot is about these days.
Yes.
A lot of credit. The transfer portal gets all the attention, and they did some good things in the portal, some really good things. I think they have more offensive weapons, clearly, than they had last year. They were able to bring in some guys that I think are going to help them on defense, on that defensive line. But what doesn't get talked about enough is the retention aspect of this. And a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to make sure that they're able to keep guys that they really want to keep. I'm off the top of my head, Cortland Guillory had a great freshman year. Last thing you want is to see him go somewhere else. Ryan Foje, Fasusi, Taylor Wine, Kip Lewis and Isaiah Satana, all of the guys that the defensive tackles, Jaden Jackson and David Stone, I had to keep those guys because they're getting courted. All of those guys are getting called. All of those guys are getting flirted with by everybody around the country. And you got to try to lock down your guys. And I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Oklahoma's done as good of a job as anybody in the country the last 2 or 3 years at keeping their guys. There's a few that have gotten away. Most of the time, though, it's been backups who are looking for starting positions. And the Eli Bowens and the Cortland Guillories and the David Stones and the Jaden Jacksons and last year R. Mason Thomas and this year Kip Lewis and the guys that they really, really wanted to keep, they've done a good job of locking down. So I think if you're a Sooner fan, you're pretty excited about the developments of this offseason so far.
Yeah, that wide receiving core now with Satana coming back, and then you add Trell Harris, all ACC, Parker Livingston, who has great size and showed great potential as a young player at Texas. All of a sudden, you feel great about those weapons. And then defensively, I don't know why Kip Lewis wasn't a Butt Kiss Award watch list guy this season coming in. He certainly should be this upcoming year. Every time I get a chance to sing my praises for Kip Lewis, I do. I love watching the guy play. I think he has such a special set of tools with his athleticism, with his instincts, with the way he plays. I nerd out about gap integrity and just the way he scrapes down the line and he shoots gaps when he's supposed to. Everything this guy does impresses me. He has a couple pick sixes under his belt. I think that was a huge piece to bring back on that defense. And you're right. It feels crazy to say, but that defense could take another step forward this coming season.
I think, as long as Brent Venables is here, more years than not, most years, they're going to have a top 10 defense. Once you get it up to speed and everybody starts to understand what they're doing, which takes 2 or 3 years because it's a complicated defense, you can pretty much count on Oklahoma having a top 10 defense year in and year out. So I think they'll have one. They got to be better on the other side of the ball. John Mateer's got to be better. I think he probably will be if he can stay healthy. They've done a good job of surrounding him with more weapons. And they got we didn't even talk about the kicker. Tate Sandel's coming back. That was a big deal too. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Let me ask you this. What's OU ranked in the preseason? How about in the SEC?
I think probably, I don't know, I could see 15 to 20 range preseason. I still think there's a lot of people that don't have full belief this group is back.
I think it'll be higher than that.
I could see 10 to 15 range. Maybe
I think it'll be higher than that. And here's why. Because for all the years of doing the radio show, we would do we'd do our own preseason top 25. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, when you're going through and trying to rank teams, you look at who's coming back. And a lot of times you start with the quarterback, but you also you look at playmakers that are coming back. Oklahoma went to the playoff last year. Okay, let's start with that. This was a playoff team last year. And you look at who's coming back for them. They got their quarterback back, and they got a ton of playmakers coming back on defense for them. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they're top 10 preseason next year. And that may only make you 5th or 6th in the SEC preseason poll. But I think maybe fifth in the preseason SEC poll, top 10 in the country.
I kind of feel like they'll be a little more respected SEC wise because those voters saw them go to Knoxville and win, go to Tuscaloosa and win. Nationally, it's still, even leading up to the playoff game and all throughout, it still felt like there were people every step of the way trying to discredit everything Oklahoma had done. And so that's the only reason is I still feel like for some reason there's a lot of people outside, and I think a lot of people want the SEC to be on a downslide, so they're going to try to push that way. That's the only reason. I'm not saying I think they deserve to be or should be up there, but that's where I think they'll get more respect within the conference now. I still think outside the conference, people want to see more out of them. And
that's a good point. The whole conference may suffer in the preseason standings a little bit because of their poor showing in the postseason. All of the non-SEC voters may bang them down a little bit because of that. Yeah. But we'll see. I certainly think that it's been a positive offseason so far.
Yes. And then really fast, portal clarification, because I feel like there's still a little confusion. Portal is closed, but people in the portal can still commit. So
you just can't get in,
guys. Yeah. Yes. Just nobody else can enter other than the national championship teams. They'll have another 5-day window after the national championship, those players. But there is a little bit, it's not endless because you still have to find a school and enroll for classes and everything if you're going to get on campus and start practicing. But that's where it's a little bit weird. It's like portal's closed, but there's still a lot of uncommitted players that could still find their homes and will find their homes in the next coming week or two.
Yeah, you can get out, you just can't get in to the portal.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of guys still stuck in there who are looking to get out. Yeah, so they're going to be trying to find homes anyway in the next few. Maybe some guys will be going back to their original homes, who thought they could find greener grass and decide, you know what, I can't, so I'm going to go back to where I was. So all right, hey, we got a bunch of coverage on everything we've just been talking about and more coming up Sunday night on the statewide Oklahoma Sports Blitz. Hope you'll follow us and watch us there. And always check us out. Please like and subscribe our podcast on Oklahoma's Own Sports. Spread the word, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's Own digital studio stream. Stay with News 9, online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.